Most facility managers spend weeks buried in spreadsheets trying to figure out why their maintenance costs keep climbing. But what if I told you that you could transform 3 years of messy data into actionable insights in under 30 minutes? Here's the thing that nobody tells you. The problem isn't about your data. It's that you're still analyzing like it's 2020. Watch me take real facility data and let AI do what used to require a team of data scientists. And by the way, this applies to whatever industry you're working in, even if you're not in maintenance. You'll see the exact process I use to turn raw data into executive ready presentations that facility owners actually want to discuss. First thing we're going to do today is gather maintenance data from multiple sources and upload it directly into ChatGPT without any pre-processing. Then we're going to use natural language commands to create sophisticated analytics that reveal the critical ratio between different forms of maintenance across different trades and time periods. And then we're going to generate additional KPIs and automatically create a complete PowerPoint presentation that's ready for stakeholder meetings. And all of it without writing one line of code. In this case, the first step is to actually start gathering the data. The site owner has made a preliminary attempt to put together some data collection, but it's not anywhere that it can be in a position where it can be used yet. So I don't want to waste your time. So I've already gathered all this data and it's in these folders, and I'm going to bring it into ChatGPT. So within ChatGPT, I'm going to go to ChatGPT 4.0. In the dark days of 2024, you would have to build a whole Python program and probably a notebook's worksheet, and then make little blocks of code, parse through the data, munge through it, find your way, and eventually figure out what you're looking at, what quality is the data, and fill in the blanks, etc. Now we have ChatGPT 4. So we're just going to load all these files right on in. I'm keeping these in the folder called labor analysis. Upload those. Now I'm going to upload the files from the dashboard that we saw from Tableau. And hopefully it's going to be able, because it lists the work task number for each of these, right? So these guys all get a ticket. They go out and do the work, and there's a number assigned to that. And it's going to use that to link the data, hopefully can figure it out automatically. Let's see how it does. Now, back in the dark ages, we had to actually think through and hand prompt everything. But this is a large language model, and now we've got this little dictate button. Let's just talk to it. Hi, ChatGPT. So I want to create some graphs and some charts that are going to tell me the ratio between corrective and preventive maintenance. In other words, what fraction is preventive and what fraction of our total hours are corrective? And how does that trend over time? Contractor charges are considered prevent, for your knowledge. You can look through the corrective tasks and then exclude the tasks that don't relate to routine maintenance that's carried out by the trades. So, for example, if you have work tasks that involve repairing pumps or electrical equipment or painting rooms or repairing carpets, those would be considered corrective tasks. But if you have other activities going on campus, like moving chairs around or setting up commencement or just random tasks like that that don't involve actual work on physical facilities, then you can exclude those from your calculation. I'm only interested in day-to-day maintenance of equipment and repair of facilities. So for task one, for question number one, yes, we should combine the preventive sources, the internal and the contractor. I want to note here that the contractors are actually dollar amounts, and you need to divide that by 165 because we're applying a sort of hourly rate, a sort of average hourly rate, so that we can compare apples to apples, because the preventive and the corrective are all in hours that our technicians are spending on this. You should go through this. I want you to, yes, number 3, aggregate it by quarter. Go back as far as you can, say January of 2023, and then for each quarter, give me the reference. Yeah, and yes, I agree, you should plot a stacked bar chart that shows the proportion for each quarter. You know what? I also want you to use the brand colors of this particular client, of this facility owner. So I'm going to give you those here. Okay, now I've given it the colors to use just to make the owner happy, and bang. Okay, so just looking at this is a little bit off because it's giving us the full year. Like, why is it going to 2025 and then 2027? Okay, this goes too far into the future. Right now, it's the middle of 2025. So I want you to give me quarter by quarter. I want you to give me quarter one of 2023, quarter two of 2023, quarter three, quarter four, etc., all the way up until second quarter of 2025. Don't go beyond that. We're going to skip ahead. Now I have my output. It processed for about a minute. So this looks reasonable, and this is what you expect. You want to see 20 to 40% of your time spent in corrective maintenance and 60 to 80% of your time in preventive maintenance, and that's ideal. And you can see there's a weird bump here where there's a very little corrective maintenance. Now, is this COVID related because the campus was empty? Probably. So you probably have some of that flowing through. But this is already 2023. So I'm going to ask a little bit more. And then here we see we have expected ratios. Now, to do this in the programmatic way, the old way, you would have to go through and then you would have to do keyword searches through all of these. Because you remember when I said exclude anything that's not specifically a corrective task on equipment? So you would actually have to figure out what the keywords are for those, like commencement or furniture relocation, anything like that. You would have to go through that whole list and bit by bit spend probably weeks just putting together a list of keywords to search for and figure out how to exclude those. Because we're working with a language model, we can do that naturally and we can get some pretty reasonable results. So this is what I want to see. I'm going to just ask a little bit though. So I noticed that there seems to be a very high ratio of preventive to corrective maintenance around from second quarter of 2023 until the first quarter of 2024. And then it peters off and it becomes heavier on corrective than preventive. Can you look through the data? I know there's some titles attached to the different work tasks and explain why this trend might be occurring. Okay, now let's ask it. Let's see what it comes up with. There was a surge in annual preventive tasks. That's true. The facility owner had been setting up the preventive maintenance tasks at that time. The corrective work was still occurring, but the volume was lower relative to the large PM push. And it mostly involved electrical issues, leaks, and repairs, but not at a scale to offset the preventive surge. This is what the owners asked for. Let's just see what else is out there. I'm wondering if you can look through this data and come up with some other KPIs or key performance indicators and then create graphs for them. What would a typical facility owner want to know about his or her site beyond this simple preventive to corrective ratio that you've produced here? And what insights could be drawn from it? Now let's go. Let's do it. Let's see what it comes up. So it's given us the total maintenance hours by quarter. This is, instead of giving us a proportion, this is telling us actual hours spent on maintenance and on corrective hours. We have the intensity. It's telling us the average hours per task. We can use these metrics to build a system that's going to tell us at a glance how our facility is actually performing. So in this case, can you break down some numbers by shops to tell us how each different trades are performing over time? Should be like a simple metric so that I can easily understand it. Okay, so here it's gone through and showed us how much work and what the preventive to corrective ratio is for each different shop. Now this graph is a mess, but I could suss out individual shops and then you can start having conversations with the different trades about what happened this month. Is there something in the schedule that we need to fix? This is a good source for future conversations. Can you think of any other metrics beyond the preventive to corrective ratio that we've been looking at here that might also be valuable and provide insights for the facility owner and something that could be used as a key performance indicator for the facility owner to be able to track over time? Please produce 3 different metrics like this and produce graphs or visualizations to display these metrics in an intuitively understandable way. Can you think of any additional metrics that might be useful beyond this simple ratio of preventive hours spent by different shops or on the facility as a whole? Think of something else that you glean from the data that I've presented you with that could be visualized as a key performance indicator in such a way that the facility owner could then look at that and intuitively understand how the operations and maintenance of this facility is performing. So now it's going to start looking through and then try to, well, it's not visualizing these, so I'm going to have to tell it to actually create the visualizations. So it gave me some ideas Now, let's try to actually do it. Okay, so create each of these visualizations and output them so that I can see them, and then describe for me what conclusions you might be able to reach from these visualizations. All right, so a couple minutes later, and it's come up with the outputs. Completion rate 100%. We're obviously giving ourselves too much leeway there, so maybe we should think about tightening up the amount of time we give ourselves to complete work tasks so that we can see how fast we're actually getting to them. Here we do. We have the average response time for corrective work hours, and we see a pretty positive trend there, that it starts off all over the place but pretty high, and then it goes down pretty quickly. And then this is interesting, is the top 10 buildings that are requiring the most information. Now these titles are bad, they're too long. For the top 10 buildings by task volume, the labels on the x-axis are too long. Please only show the labels after the final backslash. So that's actually the name of the building. So this is interesting. It's telling me the top, it's fixed the problem there. It's got the top 10 repeat corrective issues, but it's not telling me the nature of the issue right here, except for the last one, HVAC requests, and shop workload variability. I don't know what this other is. And then open backlog tasks over time. Okay, can you explain to, first of all, for the top 10 repeat corrective issues, most of what's in the y-axis labels are only the names of the buildings, and I'm not really getting what the issue is that's repeating, except for the last one, it's an HVAC request in room. So if you could redo this one and just say the building name, include some sort of label that's going to tell me what this recurring corrective issue is. For the shop workload variability, if you could just explain what this other category is about, maybe we could omit that category if it's not relevant to the shops discussed, so that the other columns are going to show more clearly what the variability is. Then tell me, have a little text description underneath as to what the meaning of this variability is. If we look at open backlog tasks over time, the deferred maintenance, how are you getting that, and what is that telling us? Because it looks like it's trending upwards. What is the meaning of this trend? All right, now let's shoot that off into GPT's little brain, see what it comes up with. Okay, now it's just telling me, it's coming with the output. It's telling me it's going to do what I said. This chat GPT, by the way, is good client relationship with me. It's thinking a little bit, it's telling me what it's going to do, and preliminary findings before it goes back and tries to put together a final result. Let's fix this. Your repeat corrective issues improved still doesn't tell me the actual issue that's coming up. It's just giving me work task numbers. I'd like to get some idea of the nature of the problem. Is it an HVAC problem? Is there a distribution panel that keeps overheating? Is there a fan that's had to be replaced many times? Okay, so now we see what the issues are, and then going into what's been coming up and what's going on. This is going to tell us a lot of problems in 1922 Sheridan. This is going to tell us which buildings are having the most problems, where the failures are occurring, and then that can be something that we then you would talk to your facility owner about, and this is a good starting point for conversations. So at this point, we have enough information that we could probably put this together into something that could be presented to the site owner. Please create a PowerPoint presentation. You can go back through and recompute everything based on the original data files. That's fine. And then output it to a PowerPoint with slides, with graphics, and with explanations, bullet pointed explanations for each of these insights that you were able to glean from the data. And now we go to analysis. This is going to take 1 or 2 minutes for it to produce something useful. Now it's just going to go through and tell me its thought process as it rebuilds this whole presentation into a PowerPoint slide deck. All right, and here's what it produced. Here's the slideshow. It's giving me everything I talked about. It has little bullet points. We have explanations of all the different metrics that it came up with beyond what I had just at first asked it to do. This needs to be fixed up a little bit, but otherwise looks pretty good. And I can go through and iterate and correct this. And then this gives us a starting point to have a conversation about how maintenance is being done. And I have to say that this technique can be applied anywhere to any industry. So if you parachuted me into a lawyer's office and said, let's start to have a conversation based on our data, you can take that data and then just start parsing it and analyzing it and feed it into a system and just start asking questions. This is called an exploratory data analysis in data science terms. I hesitate to use that here because we're not actually going through and building our own models. We're letting the AI handle that. But that's why I started AI Capitalist, right? Because I was seeing that everything that I'd learned in getting a master's degree in data science is very quickly able to be replicated by the large language models with these advanced reasoning capabilities. So I hope you got some value from it. And if you did, you might think about heading over to aicapitalist.biz and we can talk a little bit more about how your business can be improved and optimized through this data analytical technique.